Hi there. Okay, so this is section 2 of the last key area, so key area 7 of multicellular organisms. We are almost done the second unit. You are almost 2/3 of the way through the course. So let's get started.
So in this one, we're going to learn about the structures inside the lungs that are, and we're going to be looking at the idea of oxygen and carbon dioxide material as the materials that are being exchanged. Like in the last video, we looked at the digestive system. This one, it's a bit of the respiratory stuff.
Okay, you need to be able to identify the main route that air is going to take when travelling through the lungs. Less important than the bottom two. The bottom two are most important. So name the structure that gas exchange takes place within the lungs. That is super important. And give 3 features of the structure that make it good at gas exchange. Now, if you're paying attention to the villus stuff, that bottom one is going to be very, very easy for you.
Okay, so obviously your lungs are the kind of main organ we associate with your respiratory system. Now, the lungs have 2 main roles. They basically allow the oxygen that we breathe in to be absorbed into the blood, so it's going to diffuse into our bloodstream, and they allow the carbon dioxide that we are going to breathe out. They allow our body basically to have that diffuse out of the blood so we can breathe it out. And again, these structures, basically they are made to, again, maximise the ability to have this exchange of materials, whether it be carbon dioxide or oxygen, as we go through it. Now, you get a GIF here that shows really, really nicely. Lungs are huge, but they can also become tiny, but that's just showing you quite the surface area of them. If you notice, as these are getting smaller, so basically the air is being drained out of them, they are getting really, really red. They're showing they have got lots of blood because they have a good blood supply, because good blood supply allows for excellent exchange of materials. So that's what we're going to be looking at in this video, just different features of the lungs.
Okay, so again, there's another labeling exercise here. There is only really one feature that you have to be able to identify. Just like when we were going through the digestive system one and the reproduction one, there's really only the target area that we're interested in here. So you can pause it just now and try and label it if you want, but the answers will be coming up pretty much now.
Okay, so in this, the first thing is the trachea, which is sometimes known as your windpipe, but you're Nat 5, you should at least know it's called the trachea now, even if you don't need to name it. We've then got structures called bronchioles, which actually come off of a bigger structure on the other side that's labelled. The important one is the one, it kind of looks like a raspberry or something here, which is the alveolus or the air sac. These are the really important ones. These are the ones we're going to touch on. So if you know nothing else, that is the one you know. But just again to be aware, you might see a diagram where these things come up. So you need to know these other things are there and basically to ignore them. Obviously, you've got your ribs there, the bones that surround it and form your rib cage. We've got our bronchi, which is the thing coming off of our trachea, which then goes onto our bronchioles. We've then just got the general lung, this is what a lung looks like, and then the muscle underneath it, which is your diaphragm. But like I said, alveolus, only one that matters, only one that's important. The rest of them, if you don't know them, it's not the end of the world.
Okay, now carbon dioxide and oxygen are going to transfer into and out of the blood at the alveolus. So that's where carbon dioxide is going to leave the blood and oxygen is going to come into the blood at the structure called the alveolus. The lungs have got about 600 million of these structures. This allows for a huge surface area for gases to be exchanged in. Now again, I want you to think about when we were looking at the digestive system and we were talking about small intestine and villi, how the fact that the small intestine is absolutely plastered in villi, and this allows for a very large surface area. What we have in common here is 2 surfaces that are concerned with absorbing materials, and one of the big things that both of these surfaces have in common is they have got many tiny structures that increase the surface area of those surfaces. Now the gases are going to diffuse in the alveolus, go back to that. The gases are going to diffuse across the walls of the alveolus down the concentration gradient. So they are going to be following passive transport, more specifically diffusion. And this is because, again, remembering this rules of diffusion, molecules moving from the higher concentration to the lower concentration down the concentration gradient. So in the lungs with a full lung full of air, we would expect a higher concentration of oxygen to be in the air that we've just breathed in, a lower concentration in the blood. And the same thing for carbon dioxide, is we'd expect a higher concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood and a lower concentration of carbon dioxide in the air that we have just inhaled.
Okay, so looking very specifically at that structure that we said we need to know about, similar to the villus, where the plural is villi, this is an alveolus, but the plural is alveoli. So alveoli just means multiple of these things. Now, the alveoli, like you can see them here, they're just these little balls. They do look a bit like a raspberry in most diagrams. Basically, they have an excellent blood supply, and that is thanks to this thing of a capillary network. Again, just like in your villus. All of this, you will notice there's a lot of similarities. So each alveoli has a capillary network which supplies lots of blood to it. And this again makes it really, really easy for gas exchange to occur.
Right, let's have a look at one alveolus. So the idea is blood that arrives at the lungs, think about it logically. If blood is going through the lungs, it has probably run out of oxygen, or it's got very low oxygen amounts, okay? It'll have high carbon dioxide because, again, if we think about the heart, blood that's arriving at the lungs is coming from the pulmonary artery, which is going to be low oxygen and high carbon dioxide. So it arrives at the alveolus and it's going to need to basically gain that oxygen and get rid of its carbon dioxide. Okay, so blood that arrives at the lungs is going to have high carbon dioxide and low oxygen. Air that arrives in the alveolus, where you take a big breath in and you deliver air to your alveolus, that's going to have low carbon dioxide and high oxygen, or higher oxygen.
Okay, so here's a diagram here. There has been a lot of past paper questions that came up with a diagram similar to this, where it's showing like one alveolus or one air sac, and you have to kind of talk about where is basically where's the oxygen and the carbon dioxide, high, low, where's it going towards and away from the lung, and various things. So if we look at this one here, obviously on the left, this is blood coming from the heart or from the body. You can tell by the flow of the arrow it's pointing in the way, so it's coming into the alveolus. So this has came from somewhere else. So this is going to be really, really low in oxygen, but really, really high in carbon dioxide because it's been around the body. So that carbon dioxide then has to diffuse from the bloodstream into the alveolus so we can breathe that carbon dioxide out, because it's a waste material that we don't want in our body. Once we breathe that out, we have then got the rest of the blood left, which will be the stuff that's going to the heart or the body, which obviously we want to fill with oxygen. So again, we've breathed in oxygen. That oxygen is then going to diffuse into the bloodstream. So we have got blood leaving the alveolus, nicely filled with oxygen without any carbon dioxide, so as it can go to the body and give it all the oxygen that our cells need to perform their various tasks.
Okay, features of the alveolus that make it good at gas exchange. This list should seem extremely familiar because all I did was copy and paste it from one presentation to another. There are a large number of alveoli, which makes a large surface area for gas exchange. The walls of the alveolus are very thin. This makes it easier for gas exchange to occur. They have an excellent blood supply, making it easier for gases to cross into and out of the alveolus/blood, because basically if the blood is right where you need it to be, that's going to be easier to do the swap. Okay, so that should seem really, really familiar to the people who have just looked at the villus one, or if you've just looked at the villus one, because it's almost exactly the same features of it. The reasons of how it helps is slightly different, but the large number, the walls being thin, and the excellent blood supply, those are things that the villus also has.
Okay, final thing again, this looks very similar to a slide on the last PowerPoint, but the villus, so the only thing that's happened is we've changed it to the word alveolus. Again, when you're describing it, one alveolus does not have a large surface area. Many alveoli create a large surface area, which allows for good absorption, but if you're talking about just one has a really small surface area because they're tiny. So you need to think many alveoli make large surface area, one alveolus doesn't have a big surface area.
One alveolus just has good blood supply and thin walls, and that's what it's got there. Okay, so this seems like quite a short list, because the main thing you actually need to be able to do is say where is the higher oxygen, where is the lower oxygen with a picture of an alveolus. That's the main skill. But just to look at the absolute bare bones of it, the alveolus is the site of gas exchange in the lungs.
Oxygen is the gas that will diffuse into the bloodstream at the alveolus.
And carbon dioxide is going to be the gas that's going to diffuse out of the bloodstream at the alveolus so that it can be breathed out. And that is it, done. Unit 2. 2/3 of the course are down. You've got life on Earth next, and it's quite often considered as the easiest unit. It's quite a lot of common sense stuff that's in there. Not that it is overall easy. I'd say there's
a lot of experimental stuff comes up in Unit 3.
But yes, if you're about to do your prelims, good luck on that, and we hope you have found these useful. And we will get on with the life on Earth ones relatively soon.
We're also starting to make videos on different skills, so things like graphs, percentages, averages, etc.
Orange videos. Keep an eye out for the orange videos. They're going to be skills based.
If there's any skills specifically that you think you really, really want us to do, put a comment below so as we know that this is one that people really, really want to learn. Do you want to learn?
It'll have to be in the main discussion for our channel, because I've disabled the comments on all the videos.
There we go.
Okay, but do it on the main channel and that'll be fine. Okay, we will see you then for Unit 3.